going to go on to an activity that's going to help you guys learn how to use the Vernier software and probes that we're going to be making a lot of use of in future labs. So this lab is just going to kind of get us started and help introduce us to some of the stuff that we're going to be using. So in my OneNote, if you switch over to the section that says Hot Hands Activity, you'll notice there's a couple of pages here. The first one is an outline for the activities. So let's go over this real quick. So in this activity, what you guys are going to be doing is be measuring the temperature of each of your lab partners' hands. And what you'll be doing is you're going to be taking a temperature probe and you're going to place it firmly in each person's hand. And if you're reading through the procedure here, make sure that you read this. It'll tell you how to do everything, but one of the main points here is that we're going to make sure that we are letting the data be collected for 60 seconds because we want to give the thermometer or the temperature probe plenty of time to reach equilibrium so that it's measuring our temperature correctly. After you've got that, you're going to go through, again, the procedure here, steps 3 through 6. Make sure you read it carefully and do exactly what it says. Some of the buttons that you'll be interacting with in Logger Pro, they give you a small icon here that can help you find that button in Logger Pro. And then you're going to be collecting the maximum temperature from each of your lab partners in this table down here at the bottom. You can, if you don't have OneNote and you can't edit this directly, you can do this on your own computer and just open a Google Doc. Once you've collected that data, you're going to need to answer a couple of questions. And in this case, the questions are to calculate the average maximum temperature for your team. And we're going to record that in our data table. And then we're going to just, from that, we're going to be able to figure out a couple of different things. One, we want to figure out who had the hottest hand, whose body temperature at their hand was higher. Now, most people's body temperatures are going to be near 98.6 degrees, but the temperature that the thermometer is going to record at your hand might be slightly different, higher or lower, based on a lot of different factors. So you guys might want to take some time to think about what some of those factors might be. Also, we might want to take a second to just predict what's the variance. How much difference is there really going to be? A couple of degrees Celsius or tens of degrees Celsius? How big is going to be the spread of our data? It's something we want to think about before we start the lab. And our last question here is, once everyone in the class is done, we're going to try to determine what the class average is. And then I have 2 additional questions that I would like for you guys to answer. One is to calculate the percent difference from the average So in this case, I want to know what your percent difference from the class average is. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. Let me give you some tips on how to do this lab. So you can see the materials here. In this case, you guys only need for your group, if let's say we're splitting up into groups of 3 or 4, then in your group you need just one person's computer. Not everyone needs to use their own computer, but you're going to need one person's computer hooked up to the lab equipment, and then everyone else can be using their computers just as a way to write in the Google Doc. You're going to get your Vernier Lab Pro device and your temperature probe. Both of these things are found in the cabinet just to the right of the whiteboard in the front of the classroom. And you guys, let me show you a picture of what they look like. Just send one person, when you're done watching the videos, just send one person from your group up to get the required materials. So you're going to be grabbing from that cabinet in the front of the classroom, you're going to be grabbing a temperature probe. That's here. It's going to look like that. It's going to be in a plastic bag, or it might be outside of a plastic bag, but it'll look like this. There are some other probes that look similar, so you want to read really carefully here and make sure that it is in fact a temperature probe. The next thing you're going to need is called the Lab Pro. That's what you hook your probe into. So you want to grab one of those, one temperature probe, and then right next to them is going to be a power supply. So you're going to grab one of those, and you need a USB cable. So you're going to grab one of those. To get this hooked up, what's going to happen is you're going to hook up, if you see this connector here, this connector is going to plug into the Lab Pro off to the side there. This power connector is going to be plugged in at your lab table, and the other end of the connector goes in down at the bottom on the other side of the Lab Pro. And the USB cable plugs in to the Lab Pro right here and into your computer. So that's how you're going to plug it into your computer. Once you've got all that done, you should see it turn on. It'll flash some lights and make a beeping sound, and you'll know it's on, and you can open Logger Pro on your laptop, and you should be able to follow the directions in the for the activity here. Okay, if you have any questions about that, pause the video, rewind it, re-watch the explanation I just gave you. If you still can't get it to work, ask your sub to help you out. All right, the other thing that I want to help you guys out with before you start the experiment is you might not remember exactly how to record an average or how to find the percent difference that we need to do down here at the end. Now, some of what you're going to be doing, the computer will do for you through this statistics button, but down here at the extensions, when you're finding the class average and the percent difference, we're going to have to do those by hand. So let me help you out with that. So we're going to do just some calculation hints here. Okay, so a couple of hints here. So average, let's say that we have a data table with some X and Y values, and let's say it's, well, we'll do like say trial and our value, which is a temperature. And let's say for trial 1, we get a temperature of 35, and for trial 2, we get a temperature of 36, and for trial 3, we get a temperature of let's say 34 degrees Celsius. So if we want to calculate the average, what we're going to do is we're going to say the average temperature, which, by the way, the symbol for average temperature, let's say that we're using a capital T for temperature, the symbol for average temperature is to put a long bar over the letter. So the average temperature is going to be equal to the sum of the trials. So we're going to have temp 1 plus temp 2 plus temp 3. So we're going to sum all the data together. And then we're going to divide by the number of trials, or the number of data. So in this case, for this example, we're going to have 35 degrees Celsius plus 36 degrees Celsius plus 34 degrees Celsius divided by, we're entering 3 different things, so we'll divide by 3. If your lab group is 4 people, then you would enter 4. Let's say your class has a size of 20, then you would you would sum everyone's temperatures and divide by 20. Anyway, so let's see how this goes. We're gonna really quickly here open our calculator. Okay, so we've got, we're gonna enter the data. Okay, so one of the things that you're going to notice when I entered this in the calculator is that I did not do this, 35 plus 36 plus 34 divided by 3. That's going to give me the wrong answer because what I intended to do was divide everything by 3, not just the last number. So you could enter it. What I've entered here is wrong, so I'm going to clear that out. You could enter it the way that I entered it here by summing, pressing enter, then dividing by 3, or you could use parentheses. So you could do parentheses 35 plus 36 plus 34. Close parentheses, divided by 3. That's going to give us the right answer. And so our average temperature is 35 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that's how we calculate average. The other one is a little bit different. You guys might have talked about percent error. In this case, we're not talking about error. We want percent difference, but it's a similar calculation. Let me show you how this works. So let's say that we collect a bunch of data, and the data looks like that. And one of the bits of data we collected is way out here, really far away from everything else. If we wanted to know how much higher of a value that is than its corresponding data in the curve fit, then we might calculate a percent difference. By what percentage is it different? So we might find that this value is 20, and this value is 30. And so the percent difference in this case is that our new data here is 50% larger, which is going to come out to 150% the original value. 30 is 150% larger, or 150% the value of 20. So let me show you how to do this calculation. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the two values that we're trying to compare. And in this case, we want the your temp minus the class temp, or the class average, sorry. And we're going to take the absolute value of that. It might come out negative, but we'll take the absolute value. And then we're going to divide by the class average, because what we want is by what percent is your temperature different than the class average. And we'll get some number. So let's say that your temperature that you recorded was 36, and the class average ended up being 34. And then when we divide by the class average, we'll get a decimal. To turn it into a percent, we're going to multiply by 100. And we can see that your temperature is about 5.88% higher than the average. Or the percent difference is 5.88%. And that's how you calculate that. So you guys get started.